What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I am here today. Well, first of all, I had planned to do my video updating the playoffs and the, draft positioning video. It'll be the last one that I do that for because, there's only the Super Bowl left, and, the last two picks are going to wind up one of two ways depending on who wins the Super Bowl, and it doesn't matter to us because the 49ers pick is already solidified with them having lost. So and I still might do that today. If I don't do that today, then I will do it tomorrow. Also, over the next few days, I am going to throw in somewhere a video doing my first breakdown of the Dolphins' current roster as it stands right now, going through, seeing who all's there position by position, taking a look a little bit at their cap hits, and, also noticing who is a free agent, what kind, et cetera, et cetera. So we'll do all of that, but this video is actually inspired by Dougie Do Wrong. Shout out to him, not just for the great content that he creates, but also for inspiring me to do this video. This is going to be a reaction video to Brian Flores' interview on ESPN. He did one. I'm copying. Yes, I know. Like I said, shout out to him. He did it first, whatever. But it did inspire me because I watched it and it was a good show. But I want to give my comments to the things that Brian Flores, because he also had his lawyers on this show. Now, it was ESPN's GetUp. It was their morning show, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. I don't really watch ESPN, so I'm not really sure. But I do believe it is one of their morning shows. And he did it today. And so he also had his lawyers. And so I do want to go through myself and talk about it. I am going to minimize myself. I'm going to play the video so you guys can have it in here. So you can see it for yourself, so you can see everything that he had to say. And I'm going to, I'm going to react to it because, I mean, I don't know. I have some things to say. So let's go ahead and jump right into this. All right, so here we go. Let's go ahead and play this. All right, hold on. Let me take it back to the very beginning. Okay, here we go. Let's play.
Last month, and has filed as of yesterday a lawsuit against the National Football League about its hiring practices. Also, here are his attorneys, Doug Wigdor.
So yeah, real quick. So obviously Brian Flores here on the left. He's got two attorneys, so his two attorneys are over here. This obviously the host, and he's going through. Brian Flores is suing the NFL and multiple teams for racist practices, which let me just start off by saying that he is 100% right about that. The NFL absolutely has racism baked into it, just like everything else does in this country and certainly around the world. Racism has not gone away by any stretch of the imagination. I've been consistent that I believe, and they actually talk about it, so I'll mention it more here later, but I believe that all of the NFL owners are racists, at least on some level. It may be an unpopular opinion, I don't know, but I firmly believe that. And so I do think that he is right in the overall claim that the NFL is racist, but, and we'll see how this plays out, up to this point, neither him or his legal team seem to have really given any concrete proof or evidence to him having experienced any racist treatment. Now he's going to get into some of the specifics for some of the other teams, but let's just take a look at it real quick on the surface. We're going to get into more details in a minute, but he was just a head coach of a team for 3 years who does actually have, the Dolphins actually do have a good amount of diversity in their staff and in their front office. I mean, the GM is also a black guy. Let's not forget about that. Okay. But not only was he just a head coach for 3 years, but he's also, even currently, despite the, now, will he get hired? I don't know, but he is still currently in the running for at least 2 head coaching jobs, that being the Saints. They mention it here later, the Saints and the Texans, right? So, and as far as we can tell, he's still a finalist for the Texans job. So on the surface, before we get into any of the details, there really is not much to go off of, right? Because the claim is that there's racist practices in their hiring slash firing, their hiring slash firing practices. And I actually agree with that. But his experience and the evidence that he has, the things that he has to go off of, his personal experiences, don't seem to merit it yet. So let's see how it plays out. Let's see what he has to say, and let's see what his lawyers and stuff
have to say. And John Lefterakis, thank you all for coming. And Brian, let's just jump in. We have 20 minutes here, so we will be able to cover
it's a 20-minute
interview. We are
interview.
Delighted. You filed this lawsuit, which you are aware is obviously going to have enormous repercussions. What was the tipping point for you, through your experiences, that made you feel this was something you needed to do?
So he's asking what's the tipping point. I know you guys will be able to hear this, but he's asking what the tipping point is for Flores. Let's see what his answer is.
Well, I mean, just, I've been on, several interviews over the years. And look, I mean, we didn't have to file a lawsuit for the world to know that there's an issue from
okay, so why did you?
And firing.
If you didn't have to, why did you?
In the National Football League.
That's correct. A lot of people have pointed this out. So why did you feel you needed to do this?
Because we need change. That was the number one reason.
Okay, but that doesn't tell us why you needed to do it. What experience did you have that inspired you to
we need change.
Push for this change? Okay, I agree we need change, but what in your experience?
Coaches, some of my staff who I know, if given an opportunity or when given an opportunity, are going to go and do a great job on their interview. And I would just hate for that to be.
Okay, so you got good guys on your staff that deserve chances. Gerald Alexander is probably an example, right? But that's not proof, or that's not any evidence of any experience you had. So what experience did you have that drove you to see? If I was interviewing, I would press things. Now they have a limited amount of time. They have a number of topics to get to or aspects of this. But for me, I'd be like, okay, but what experience did you personally have that warranted you to make such a drastic move and cause such, potential chaos, not just for the NFL or teams, but yourself, because you might not ever coach in the NFL again because of this. Whether he's right or wrong, I completely agree that he probably will be blackballed and not get a job in the NFL at this point. So what experience though, and maybe he could use that future stuff that'll happen, the blackballing that'll probably happen at this point, but it hasn't happened yet. So what has happened to you to this point?
Waste. And I think, we need to change the hearts and minds of the people making those decisions. That's why we filed the
lawsuit. Who are those people?
Trying to change the hearts and minds of the people who make the decisions. Did you see what happened to Colin Kaepernick? Do you think that these billionaires, most of which are white, most of which are white men, do you think they're really going to change their hearts and minds? Because I do agree that there are these practices that go on. But still, you got to provide the evidence. I'm not sure Brian Flores is the right guy to be leading this charge, because up to this point, I haven't seen any legit evidence.
Do you think needs the change?
The owners of the NFL.
I agree with that. The owners do need to change.
I mean, sometimes, I'm a lawyer, obviously, but sometimes
there does need to be more representation.
The Rooney Rule didn't work.
Shad
Khan.
But
we now have.
Yeah, somebody. I think somebody just. I think it was the host who just mentioned Shad Khan, because the lawyer just said all of the NFL owners are white men. That's not true. There is a female owner that is white, I do believe, if I'm not mistaken. But there's a woman, at least one female owner, and Shad Khan's not white. But I do agree there needs to be more minority representation. The problem is that the easiest way to get there is by being a billionaire. And there are only 7 black billionaires in the entire country, in America. Out of 724 billionaires, there are only 7 of them. Now, you could get a bunch of rich black people together to pool their money and buy portions of the team and stuff like that, and maybe even get to the point where they could buy, if you had people like Jay-Z and Beyonce and whatever, those kind of wealthy individuals, black Americans, then maybe you could get to a large enough portion to have an effect and some change. But it's really difficult for blacks. Now, obviously, that's a much larger and systemic issue, the wealth disparity between races, especially in this country, but it is difficult to do. So, but I agree, it does need to change. I mean, we you know, like I said, I think pretty much all of the owners are racist, at least on some level. So, and they're all just billionaires, right? Like, that's the only requirement to buy a team is be a billionaire.
Less black head coaches than when the Rooney Rule started. And, you know, Brian thought long and hard about it. And litigation's not for everyone, but he stepped forward. He's been referred to as the Rosa Parks of the NFL.
Okay, sorry, I gotta stop that again. Because again, bro, until you actually bring some like legitimate evidence that you yourself was subject to racist behavior and, you know, had experiences, he does not deserve to be called the Rosa Parks of anything. Like, let alone the NFL, bro. Like, Colin Kaepernick has a far greater claim to that title than Brian Flores at this juncture. So, you know, I think that's a little bit extreme to call this dude the Rosa Parks, at least until they provide like more concrete evidence than what they do. So,
and it's a testament to his character, and the litigation will create change, either because we're going to litigate the case to the end, or the NFL is going to now do the right thing faced with litigation.
Okay, let's go through some of the specifics here. We detailed earlier
I doubt
a text
anything's gonna
exchange you
change
had with
if I'm
Bill
being
Belichick,
honest,
for whom
but-
you worked in New England at some point, in which it appears he was congratulating the wrong Brian Daboll, rather than Brian Flores, for getting the job in Buffalo. We've all read that, or excuse me, leaving Buffalo and
talking
getting the
about
job
the
with the
texts
Giants.
from
We've all read it.
Belichick,
When you first
got
realized
confused
the mistake
between
he
the
had made,
Bryans.
what was your first reaction?
Disbelief, humiliation. You know, that was a tough pill to swallow, and that, you know,
I mean, it
I have
sounds like a
great
little bit of an
amount respect
overreaction.
for, you know, Bill and Brian Daboll. Brian's a great coach. I think he's going to do a great job as a head coach in this league. I was upset that I wasn't getting a true opportunity to show what I can do, to show what I can bring to a team.
All right, real quick, before he finishes the bullshit that keeps continuously spewing out of his mouth. We all read, I mean, theoretically, we all read the texts. To me, and I mean, it seems pretty clear here, it was just a confusion between people in your phone. And he even said it. We all make the mistake of sending a text to the wrong person. To Brian's. He's an old dude, bro. I'm pretty sure he's not like millennials and Gen Z who are constantly in their phones, bro. So I'm pretty sure he's, you know, a little bit more subject or prone to making that kind of mistake. But when you read the text, all Bill Belichick said was, I think you're the guy. It seems like you're the guy. He didn't say anything about, hey, you're definitely the dude and they're not even considering anybody else. Nothing like that. The context of what he said is completely different, right? So if he would have said something along the lines of, hey man, look, I'm giving you the heads up. You're the dude, and they're not even considering anybody else. If he said that, okay, that would be one thing. But all Bill Belichick said was, hey, it looks like you're going to be their guy. That's what I'm hearing. Hopefully that's true. Good luck. Like, how is that like any kind of definitive? Now, maybe they did. Maybe the Giants did decide ahead of time. But there were also reports that in his interview, they wanted to ask him about the dysfunction that went on with the Dolphins. Maybe they just didn't like the answer. And maybe that's why they didn't hire him. There was nothing in those Belichick texts that would say there was any like legit fucking concrete plan to hire Brian Daboll, and they didn't care about any of the other candidates. I'm just saying, like, it seems pretty clear. The context and the framing of his words, Bill Belichick's words, are very important, and nothing about what he said would indicate that there was any predisposition to who they were going to choose.
which I feel is a lot. I think that's what I've shown in my time as head coach.
That's what this is all about as well. There's just not equal opportunity. This is not.
I mean, again, I do agree
Coach
there is not
Dable.
equal
this is
opportunity.
a knock on the fact that the job was.
I just haven't seen the evidence in his case. He
Coach
just
Flores
was a
even
head
got an
coach.
opportunity. And there's
But he's
backroom
still in the
dealings
running
and
for jobs
information
despite
that
this.
Coach Belichick knows. Why? Why is that being discussed? Why do people have this information? Why
because,
is a
bro,
decorated coach
there's
like
always
Coach Flores,
conversation. Okay, hold on. By the way, let's also mention that because this lawyer's asking, well, why does Bill Belichick know about the conversation? Because, bro, what do you mean? Of course, and just because, by the way, just because they have conversations and he talks to these people because he's friends with them and stuff, and maybe he does know about how the process is going, and maybe he even knows where these teams are leaning. But that's still not evidence that they made a decision ahead of time and decided to completely fuck off with all the rest of their candidates and that they're only doing it because they have to. There's no legit hardcore evidence of that yet. Even if Bill Belichick did know what the Giants, game plan was and where they were leaning. Because again, from his comments, that's about all Bill Belichick was saying is, hey, it sounds like they're leaning towards you, my dude. I hope that's true. Good luck.
To sit through an interview and dinner when a decision's already been made.
It's worth pointing out that the Giants said in their statement that Brian Flores was a candidate for this job up to the 11th hour. What is the response to that?
Notice they don't say up to the time that he actually interviewed. So they don't even...
Okay. I'm sorry, but that's a stupid lawyerly thing to do. Okay? Now, I mean, I could be wrong here, and again, maybe they did decide ahead of time that it was Brian Dable, but he's being very nitpicky about something that doesn't need, because he said the Giants said up to the 11th hour. What does that mean? That means right up to the fucking end, right? It means right up until the decision was made, he was a candidate. So the Giants are saying up until they decided, none of us know when they actually decided to hire Brian Dable because it didn't come until after all of the interviews were done, including Brian Flores's, right? So up until they made their decision, as far as we know, unless there is any hardcore evidence to prove otherwise, they made their decision after they did all of their interviews. And up until that point, Brian Flores was still in the running for it. And they just chose whatever. But this lawyer is like, notice they didn't say up until he was interviewed. What the fuck does that matter, dude? It doesn't matter. He was a candidate up until the 11th hour, meaning right until the very end of their process, their decision-making process, which the end of the decision-making process came after his interview, which means through his interview and after his interview until they made up their mind, he was part of it. So this lawyer, I'm sorry, but right now, this answer is kind of full of shit, and there's a few answers in here that I find to be full of shit.
Deny the allegation that we put forth, which is that the job had already been given to Brian Dable.
And
there's
so, Coach, I'm sure
literally
there are many
been
watching
no
who will wonder, why did you go
actual
on the interview at all? If you
concrete
felt it
evidence
was a
to
sham,
suggest
as you-
that they
you
had made that
suggested the
decision
lawsuit,
yet.
Why did you go?
Because I believe that, innately people are good and are going to do the right thing.
Okay, dude, I'm
And
sorry.
there's no way to allow them the opportunity to do the right thing or at least make it a fair situation.
Real quick, though. I mean, I do get that he has to still go to the interview, even if, because he was asked, well, why did you go if you thought it was a sham? Well, I mean, he's still got to do the professional thing. He's still got to do, and, I get that black coaches may be subject to having to sit through interviews, but again, there's no legit indication, and the fact that he would take that from Bill Belichick's texts is, at this point, unreasonable.
I went there and showed them that I am qualified. I am a leader of men, that I am passionate about coaching and building relationships. And
Being a leader of men, that's really up for debate.
I'm gifted to coach. I mean, I am. I know that. And I wanted to show them that. I think they saw that in the interview.
And Mike, one of the things that all
Okay, hold on. So he just said right there that I wanted to show them that I'm gifted at coaching, I'm a leader of men, which is up for debate, and that I deserve it. And that he said, I think they saw that. Okay, well, if you think they saw that and they said that up until they made their decision, why would you assume that the decision was made prior to? There is no actual reason or evidence to suggest or indicate that at all yet.
Happens when you're dealing with racial issues is people find a soft hiding place, a soft place to say, oh, you know what? Coach Flores didn't get the job because he did an interview. Maybe he took himself out of
contention is what he's saying. Real quick, he's right about that. That is a, manipulative tactic that could be used, but it's irrelevant here because he did interview. He did interview. So it's irrelevant. I get it. He's right that people do play these little manipulative games and do shady shit like that. But that's not an example to use it here because he did interview.
And, Coach Flores having to put his best foot forward and go, hat in hand and just, interview, knowing deep down that this job was promised elsewhere. Aside from being humiliated, that's something that black candidates often are forced to do.
They probably are, but there's no indication that he was actually in that position.
You didn't go. You didn't follow through.
If he felt that way,
you didn't do your part.
I mean, I guess.
I would say, I think those text messages confirmed a lot of what.
No, they didn't.
A lot of us, black
they
minority coaches already feel
didn't.
That we're going into these.
The text message didn't confirm any of it.
It confirmed that. A lot of there's a belief in look, that was just a mistake by Belichick. We've all sent the wrong text message to somebody.
And so he says it here.
But in this instance, it came to me, and it was almost, it was confirmation that those backroom dealings were happening.
No. Okay, see, that's the thing. So he just admit that we all make mistakes and send the text to the wrong. It's two Brians in an old dude's phone. Okay, two Brians he knows closely that were, on his staff at one point. Like, bro, are you kidding me? So he accidentally sends it. But again, nothing. He says that the text messages were confirmation. Nothing in there confirmed that they had some backroom dealing where they had already made up their mind. He says, I think that you are the guy. It seems like they're leaning towards you. Indications are that they're leaning towards you, not that they've decided on you, but that they're leaning towards you. I hope you get it. Good luck. How is that a confirmation? Again, it's probably true that these first of all, I know backroom conversations happen all the time. That is 100% true. And I would venture to guess that there have been black coaches who have been, decided against, let's say, in some of these backroom conversations, and maybe it did happen to Brian Flores, but you got to provide legitimate, concrete evidence, and nothing about Bill Belichick's text proves it.
Why something like that might be a sham and why they would need to do it. There is the Rooney Rule in the NFL, which is something that I'm sure fans hear about quite often and may not know specifically, but I heard you describe it this morning in a previous interview as checking a box. So the existence of the Rooney Rule,
which I do agree with that,
interview at least two external minority candidates for an open head coaching position. Doug, how does that rule impact a lawsuit like this?
Well, I think the intentions of the Rooney Rule were right. It was trying to get more of these owners to interview qualified black candidates. But when the team is interviewing a qualified black candidate and they've already made a decision, it shows prima facie evidence of intentional discrimination. It means that they've chosen.
Yes, but you actually have to prove that, though. You actually have, and he's a lawyer, so of course he knows this. You actually have to prove that they made up their mind prior to. You can't just say that they did. Now, again, I agree that the Rooney Rule is kind of bullshit at the end of the day, and it's super easy to circumvent because it's super easy to, behind the scenes, because I don't know, I'm not in the head of any of these GMs or owners that are making these decisions, and I do think that a lot of them for sure are racist, so it's 100% plausible that they could go into this and be like, man, well, we have to interview these guys, so put a couple names on the list, but we're not really even going to consider them. right? So, and look, there aren't many black head coaches right now in the league. So that is also true. And that's part of the reason why you can believe it. But you still got to prove it in any individual case. You can't just say, hey, we believe it to be generally true, so it must apply here. That's not how it works.
A white candidate before they'd even given the black candidate the opportunity. And it's not only for head coaching positions. What we really need to see are more black coaches doing offensive coordinator positions, defensive coordinator positions, special teams, quarterback.
I mean, I agree
so that
with all
way
that.
It flows into the head coach positions. And we need, obviously, we need more black owners.
And when you talk about the Rooney Rule, it's
But how you gonna do
ultimately
that, my
tied
dude?
to an assumption that the owners and the upper management are people who are going to do the right thing and hire based on merit and not based on someone who they're comfortable with, someone who looks like
Yeah,
them.
I mean,
and that's what this is
Good
about.
luck on
We've
that.
listed in our complaint
You're not going to get these rich white billionaires to
demands
stop
that we
being,
want to see, tying,
the people they've
hiring
been their
practices
entire lives at this
to
point.
performance. Hire a black coach, hire black executives, open up the
nice.
process and provide objective evidence of what went into your decision-making process, so these decisions aren't done with the all white owners in backroom dealings.
Well, I definitely agree with that too. Not only again, how do you get more black owners? There are literally only 7 black billionaires out of 724. It's less than 1% of a group that in a whole is already 1%, right? The billionaire class is already 1% of the overall population. Black billionaires are 1% of the 1%. So how are you going to do that? I get it, right? And you definitely need more black, and minority, not just black, but like Asians, Hispanics, whatever. It doesn't matter. We do need a lot more of that throughout the NFL, especially in the positions of power. But it's hard to do, bro. How are you going to get more black owners? Like, honestly, if we're keeping it real, the more realistic chance you have is passing it off to, since there are a lot more rich or a lot more white billionaires, your better bet would be to passing it off to or selling it off to a white billionaire. Maybe it's a woman because, there are white women that are a lot more white women in the billionaire class than, black women or minorities, but of a younger generation, right? Of, maybe the millennial or, it'd be hard to sell it to Gen Z because they're so young. But, from the millennial generation, a lot of us have, that more inclusive philosophy when it comes to life in general. So, I don't know, I don't know what the right answer is, honestly, but, anyway.
People who make them feel comfortable because they
Good
look
luck.
like themselves.
So you're saying a level of transparency that you believe is
Oh,
not
yeah,
perfect.
and that's the other thing. Transparency, though, that is one thing that you can do. Like, certainly if the regulations on it are that you have to be completely transparent about every little bit of this the whole way, but that's even super hard to do because what are you going to say? Are you going to say that anytime that you're discussing this business matter, you have to what? Like be recorded or something? It's super hard to get full transparency, but certainly making it more transparent than it is a good thing. And, hopefully that can be done.
Of the three,
but good luck in
specifics
getting
that you
real
cite here of
systemic,
teams. That's the New York Giants. Let's go to the job that you
fundamental
did get
change
in
on
Miami.
this.
When you were the head coach, you alleged in the lawsuit that the owner, Stephen Ross, approached you about tanking games to get a better draft choice and said he would give you $100,000 for every game you lost. As you can imagine, that obviously has enormous repercussions.
Okay, so real quick, I don't know if that's true about Ross offering him $100K per game to lose. I first of all wouldn't be surprised at all. It would not. I would not be shocked in the slightest. Now, for Brian Flores and his legal team, if that's something that they want to claim and if that's something that they want to prove, it actually should be theoretically pretty easy to prove, because if it happened and if now it actually wouldn't make him look all that good, which is kind of a strange thing. Why would you be because that means then if he's going to be able to prove it, he's got to be able to provide hardcore evidence. So either he would have had to have taped that conversation and have like a video or audio recording of that conversation, or he would have to have something like bank transaction statements that showed that, let's say, for example, we play a game on Sunday. On Monday, after we lost the game, all of a sudden Brian Flores has $100,000 that gets wired into his bank account, right? Or something along those lines, some kind of receipt. Now, maybe he gave it to him in cash, but then do you have all of that cash, right? But my point is he would have to provide some kind of hardcore evidence for that. But that would mean then he would have to admit to having agreed to tanking and accepting the money, etc., and that doesn't make him look good. But if none of that exists, right, then how are you going to prove that? How are you going to prove that Stephen Ross actually asked you to do that? Again, without having like an audio recording or something, that's going to be super difficult to prove.
What could you tell me about the specifics of that offer? How specifically did he state that to you?
That was a conversation about not doing as much as we needed to do to win football games. Take a flight, go on vacation. I'll give you $100,000 per loss. Like, those are just the exact words. And it's not something. Look, I deal in truth.
Okay, hold on. Gotta pause that. I deal in truth. Get the fuck out of here. Okay, couple things I want to say. First, on the tanking, I call bullshit. He says that he denied it, but I call bullshit for a number of reasons. One, because Ross 100% would have had that conversation with Brian Flores before hiring him. Because I firmly believe that Ross did want to tank the 2019 season for a quarterback in 2020. And that was part of the reason why Gase got fired, because he refused to do it. And so that conversation would have been had, and he would have had to agree with it before Ross would have hired him. I don't think Ross would have hired him if he didn't agree. That's the first reason why I call bullshit. Secondly, and why I call bullshit to him supposedly pushing back on Stephen Ross and saying, no, I'm not going to do it, integrity of the game, blah, blah, blah. The other reasons why I believe, why I call bullshit is because, one, it is undeniable that we sucked in 2019 because we fielded a team that didn't even come close to being able to compete with everybody else, right? Why was that? Because we stripped it down to the fucking studs, and who was responsible for that? This motherfucker. By his own admission. By his own fucking admission. Even back then, he said he had a hand in every single transaction. Plus, as you know, if you followed me, I firmly believe that on game day, there was plenty of evidence also to prove that the dude was throwing games. So I call complete bullshit on him saying, no, I would never do that, blah, blah. Get the fuck out of here. Also, to the truth thing, he's a bro. How many times have we caught this motherfucker in a lie? How many times has he sat down in front of the media, to the fucking press in his press conferences, and lied to us? How many verifiable things do we have of times when this motherfucker's lied? So when he says, oh, bro, I'm a seeker of truth, or whatever the fuck it is, I'm a believer in truth, get the fuck out of here, bro. You lie constantly. Get the fuck out of here.
Say that to the players as well. I'm going to give you, good news, bad news, but it's going to be the truth. It's going to be honest.
Full of shit right there.
And in that instance, look, I came from. Look, this game's done a lot for me. A lot for me personally.
It's hard for me. It's hard for me to be on his side, bro, because
this, on other shows.
He doesn't have credibility in a lot of these claims, like the seeker of truth one for sure. And there's no hardcore evidence that he experienced any legit racist behavior.
And it was hard to make it out of there. And the game of football is the reason why, or a big reason why, along with a lot of the great people mentors I've had in my life.
Okay, it's glad that football's been a. I'm glad that football's been a big part of your life, and it's helped you succeed.
Was something that.
What does that have to do with anything?
There were certainly some strained relationships, and ultimately, I think that was to my demise in Miami.
And his story is not unique. Right. People are tweeting out. Coaches, high-level coaches, who have even contacted us, are talking about being in a people are tweeting out, coaches, high-level coaches who have even contacted us are talking about being in a similar situation. So, you know, as part of what we're doing in creating this class action, is not just Coach Flores is taking the lead
we'll
and
see
making
what
the
these
ultimate
other,
sacrifice.
if there
But there's
are
gonna be
anybody
more.
else that
I want to make
comes
sure I'm clear here.
forward.
You're saying coaches are reaching out about having been in similar situations with regard to hiring or with regard to being incentivized to lose games?
Both.
Okay, so hold on. So real quick, so these lawyers are claiming that there are other coaches in the NFL, minority coaches, who have not only dealt with racist, you know, issues or whatever, discrimination, but also have been incentivized to lose games. I don't know if I believe that one. The other one, sure, you know, I definitely think that minority coaches have experienced, again, I'm not sure Brian Flores is the right guy to spearhead this, but I mean, teams don't lose on purpose very often, bro. Like, and again, that's going to be something that's super, super hard to prove unless you have concrete evidence, transactions, audio recordings, video recordings, something, bro. You have to have something. And so let's see what these other coaches and stuff have to say, if there are any that actually come forward.
He was suggesting, I don't want to put words in your mouth, you were working too hard, you were doing too much in the effort to win. He was trying to get you to do a little bit less and said, I'll give you $100,000 for every game you lose.
Exactly that.
I mean, again, I wouldn't be surprised, but you got to prove it.
That's just not my DNA. That was never going to happen.
So what
Again,
did you say to him?
bullshit, bro. He says it's not in his DNA.
It's never going to happen.
You did it, dude.
Look, I'm always going to try to win. That's just.
There was even evidence this year that he was trying to sabotage the team, but mostly, I would say Tua.
Players in the locker room, but also the support staff. That's
rather to rephrase that, there was evidence this year that he was intentionally holding the team back, especially in the first half with his baby, that he's supposed to be a genius on that side of the ball with the defense. And I don't want to hear anything about Boyer, bro. He's the head coach. It's his fucking baby. He's in charge of that. There's no reason why the defense shouldn't have been playing up to fucking par with, you know, what they're capable of when they're actually calling it correctly. So, you know, and I believe he was doing that to sabotage Tua. So get the fuck out of here, bro, about it's not in your DNA, dude. No, I firmly believe you'll do it if you think that's what's in the best interest for you.
That's in the building, who work extremely hard. If you've been in an NFL building, everyone in that building, his job is important. And everyone works hard to try to get on the same page and move in the same direction.
They're all important.
And I felt like we were building that type of culture. So
nah, bro, you were putting you were bringing nothing but toxicity to the Dolphins.
And at the end of the day, I think it was.
You can believe otherwise, but you're wrong.
I'm no longer there.
Okay, so that's the Dolphins piece of this. And then there's another piece involving the Denver Broncos, in which you allege that this is back when you were still coaching in New England and interviewing for a head coaching job in Denver, one you subsequently did not get, in which you state that in an interview that you had with them, that John Elway and another Broncos official showed up an hour late, looked disheveled. It was obvious to you they had been drinking heavily the night before the interview. You say it became clear they only were interviewing you to fulfill the provisions of the Rooney Rule. What specifically can you remember about that?
I mean, that's certainly hard to prove,
so I've had 9 interviews with NFL clubs.
Okay, congratulations. You've had 9 interviews.
Anyone was late.
Okay, they were late.
That was late. It was the interviewers who were late. That was with the Broncos.
Because they say they got records.
I think there was a reason why they were late. I think they were they'd been out the night before. I think that's the reason why.
What evidence and proof do you have that? Okay, hold on. First of all, he's got to prove multiple things here. First of all, he would have to prove that they were out, which might even be a little bit easier to do. But you have to prove that that was a contributing factor to them being late. You have to prove multiple things. 1, that they were out. 2, that was a contributing factor to them being late, and that they were in fact late. You can't just say it, because they apparently have records with timestamps and shit like that. So you actually got to prove that they were late, and then you got to prove that they legitimately were just not fucking. But again, did you record the conversation? Like, do you have some legit evidence that they weren't actually? Because again, they apparently have detailed time-stamped notes. Now we'll have to wait and see if all that actually comes out, because I haven't seen it yet from the Broncos. But that's a lot to fucking have to prove. So I mean, I'm waiting.
What gave you the impression, if you will, that they had been out drinking the night before?
Well, I mean, when you sit at a table with 5 people who are interviewing you, you know you can tell who's asking
Your
questions.
intuition is not evidence, by the way.
Who's not necessarily in the right state, I would say, in that moment.
It's not evidence.
But even then, obviously, I put my best foot forward and showed why I was a good candidate for that job. I'm always going to do that. But I certainly did not feel like I was taken seriously, and that I was just there as a Rooney Rule.
Vic Fangio ultimately was hired for that job and was subsequently fired a month ago. You are aware, of course, that the Broncos have released a statement emphatically denying the allegations, giving specifics about what time the interview began, what time it ended, where it took place. They say they have notes. What is your reaction to that?
This is not an answer.
That's my reaction.
That's not an answer, bro. Okay, if you're a seeker of truth, you have to prove it. You can't just be like, you can't. Okay, so the Broncos say that they have timestamped documents, detailed records about where it was held, when it started, when it ended, everything that happened throughout the entirety of the interview. What do you got to say? I'm a seeker of truth. What kind of fucking answer is that, bro? Like, what kind of answer is that? That's not a response. You got to be like, nah, that's bullshit, man. But even if you say that's bullshit, they're lying, you still have to fucking prove it.
The integrity is important to me. And hopefully we there's a day where we find out the truth on that one.
Once again, to be clear, there's no question in your mind about your
again, so he's like, his response is, well, I'm a seeker of truth, and I hope one day we'll find out the truth. What do you mean, bro? You're alleging that they're lying. What do you have to prove that? Hopefully one day we'll see the truth. So what? Hopefully one day here soon they'll actually produce all of these records that they say they have disproving me? Like, what are you talking about? Like,
election of this, regardless of what they say. Okay. And
where's
so
your
now,
evidence,
as
dude?
I pointed out repeatedly this morning, you are currently a candidate for 2 vacant head coaching positions in the NFL, in New Orleans and in Houston.
Yep.
How have you handled those situations with regard to filing this lawsuit?
Well, before we filed the class action, I sent messages to both teams, letting them know that we would be filing, but also that I still had was very interested in coaching and leading either one of those teams. Look, coaching it's what I love. It's a passion of mine. It's I'm called and gifted to do it.
Still in the running for 2 jobs.
And the reasons why is because I love helping young people reach their potential and become the best version of themselves on and off the field. So I would love to lead an NFL team.
Oh, wait, one more thing, because it says here on the little lower part that he's alleging discrimination regarding his interviews with Broncos, Giants, and the firing by the Dolphins. Bro, again, the Dolphins organization is one of the more diverse organizations when it comes to the entire staff, bro. The GM is a black guy right now. Okay, you just spent 3 years as the Dolphins head coach. But I think there is legitimate evidence to say that the reason why the Dolphins fired him is the reason why they gave, right? It's not just Stephen Ross and Chris Greer that said, or that believe that Brian Flores is difficult to work with. Players, reporters have said that, bro. Like, I talk about it, and I don't even know the dude, but just from what I can tell from what everybody else is saying, bro. So he got fired because 2 reasons. 1, because he's a fucking dickhead and nobody wants to fucking work with him. Coaches and players either refused to come here or left because of it in a lot of instances. And like, he couldn't build a fucking coaching staff because of it. Like, bro, what are you talking about? You got fired because you suck, because you're a dickhead, and also because, let's keep it real, he didn't meet the expectations winning-wise that Stephen Ross had. Okay, sure, they had back-to-back winning seasons, but did they make the playoffs? Do the Dolphins look like they're actually fucking moving in the right direction? Clearly not.
But
Had nothing to do with him being
change.
black.
You know, the hiring practices in the International Football League, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves. I mean, there's one black head coach. The league's filled with 70% of, you know, black players. I know.
Bro, you got to
capable
prove
coaches
it in
this
your
league
case, my dude.
to lead
You can't
teams.
just claim
I have
it
some
and
on my
that's
staff.
it.
I know, you know, the majority of them, I would say. I know what kind of integrity and character and leadership that they have, and they deserve an opportunity, a real opportunity, not a Rooney Rule opportunity where
They do
a box
deserve
is
real
checked.
opportunities. They probably won't get
And look,
it,
the
but
National Football League,
you still got to
I've been in this
prove
league
your
18
case,
years.
bro.
The National Football League is an example to the world. It really is.
Yeah, they're one of the
They
more
have an
powerful
opportunity. People follow the
corporations.
lead of the
I
National
get it.
Football League.
That's
They just
why
do.
good luck on getting
that's
them to
how powerful this
change.
league is. So there's an opportunity here. There really is.
But you got to have a hell of a
I said
fucking
it this
case
morning,
to
we're
do
at a
it,
fork in the
bro.
road here.
Like,
These things are either going to stay the way they've been, or we're going to move in a direction that will not only help and affect change amongst the, you know, black minority coaches in the National Football League, but it won't just be there.
What is the opportunity? Specifically, Coach, what is the opportunity? What isn't happening that should happen in your mind? What would you like to see come as a result of this suit that you have filed?
I would like to see the hearts and minds, and I say that, I want the hearts and minds of the people making those decisions to change in a way where
you're not going to get these people to
there's
change,
more,
though. How you going to do that, dude?
I don't want to say what's the word I'm looking for. They want to or have a feeling to hire someone of color, that they can relate to that person, that they can
Ross did it.
Build a relationship with that person, because I think that's a
But
little
you're
bit of the
saying
issue.
that he was...
The familiarity isn't there. And I think we need to open up a little bit more. And
I actually
there's
do
an
think
opportunity
Ross
for that.
is...
That's a quick legal question,
On
if
some
I can,
level,
because
a
this
motherfucking
came up earlier this morning.
racist.
Should he
He's a
be
Donald
hired for
Trump
this job,
supporter.
or one of these two jobs? How does that impact a lawsuit like this?
Well, you know, our lawsuit talks about terms and conditions of employment, talks about terminations, compensation. There are other people also involved. Of course, he got turned down from one of the biggest markets in the NFL with the Giants as well. So this lawsuit's not going away. But you know what? We share, all of us share this as an opportunity. The NFL has this wonderful opportunity to actually forget about the denials, the legal denials and things like that.
You gotta have a
They
fucking
an
hell of a
opportunity to
case,
actually
though, dude.
set the
Like,
record
you ain't
straight,
got
make
shit
things
right
right,
now.
to move forward and set an example for the rest of America.
And you know what? We, as much as that's what we hope for, to help, you know, create change, you know, their statement, which hopefully was just a knee-jerk reaction, you know, they came out with a denial, and it's without merit. I mean, we filed a 60-page complaint rife with details of some serious allegations. I mean, they've investigated deflated footballs longer than they even took to do a response here.
Yeah, I mean, the NFL was pretty quick. Now, these organizations, the individual organizations, Broncos, Giants, they have all detailed records of all of these things that have happened. So they could probably pretty promptly break. Now, again, with the Broncos, to be fair, we still do have to wait and see if they can produce the, you know, the paperwork and the evidence and stuff like that to prove their side of things, to be fair, completely fair. But, you know, the NFL, I agree they were a little quick to say it's without, I mean, it's funny because, again, the general claims I agree exist. Like, I agree that there are, you know, unfortunately, there is racism baked into it. I mean, it's baked into everything, unfortunately. You'll find it no matter where you are, right? You have fucking, you can go to a bakery and be declined because you're gay or a certain color, right? So, you know, it happens in school. It happens in all kinds of jobs, right? Like, so it happens in politics. So it's all over the place. But again, you got to prove your individual case, bro.
I mean, when you put that in perspective, that we're talking about how black candidates are, and minority candidates are hired and fired and discriminated against, and they within 30 minutes to an hour put out a statement saying it is without merit. I mean
they had to put
the
out
fact that they were able to
something.
do that, it's a real indication and an indictment of what's been going on and what we know through the numbers and just all of our
And they
experience.
probably
Have
do
90
believe it
seconds
is
left.
without merit.
Do you believe you will ever coach in the National Football League again?
I'm hopeful that I will. I'm very hopeful.
You probably won't, though,
But
at
I
this
understand
point.
the risks of filing a lawsuit like this. But I am hopeful that I will. It's something I'm passionate about. But if change comes, and if I never coach again and there's change, it'll be worth it.
You know, we were in the green room before, and I was overhearing a call actually with your son. And the son, who I think is 9 years old, 8 years old, was saying, "Daddy, are you going to get a job?" I mean, it's an 8-year-old kid.
Yep.
And,
I mean,
you
but
know,
like,
hat goes off to you for standing up.
but it's his.
I've
If he
literally
doesn't,
30 seconds left. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
look, if he doesn't get a job at this point, it's kind of his own fault because he put himself in the spotlight. And unless he has hardcore evidence, there was no reason to do it because you're only screwing yourself without being able to actually affect any sort of change. If he's, you know, I mean, you got to provide some fucking legit proof, dude.
Look, I mean, this isn't about me. This is bigger than football. This is.
All right, well,
This
prove
is
it,
about,
man. You gotta you gotta
equal
come with more
opportunity,
than just texts
for
that don't
qualified,
verify anything, and the suspicion that
candidates,
they were
not just in
fucking
football,
drunk
but
during your interview.
everywhere, in all
And
industries.
you gotta prove that they
Coach,
were late.
I
and
wish you luck. I thank you very much
you
for
gotta
making the time
prove
to
all
come down here.
this
Both
shit,
of you
dude.
gentlemen,
Like,
thank you very much.
they haven't
for coming here. We
provided any
appreciate it. We
hardcore
appreciate your
evidence.
willingness to share
So,
these thoughts.
I mean, look, bro, just to wrap it up, I mean, again, I agree that it is a problem in the NFL, and it definitely needs to be fixed and changed. It's a problem in the world, but you can't just, I mean, because that's just not how it works, bro. Like, you can't just claim something and expect to get the results based off of that claim without ever having to provide any actual evidence. And none of what they've provided, from what I've seen, from what I've heard, is even close to providing legit evidence. So we'll see, man. We'll see how it plays out. I mean, it's a huge thing, and man, this ended up being a long video. But I mean, it's like I got my reactions to it, and I gotta see a lot more, dude. Like, and look, to be clear, bro, again, I know it exists, so I feel for these people in general, but this is the guy, I mean, they literally called him the Rosa Parks of the NFL. So if you want to take on that kind of mantle, you got to come with some motherfucking evidence, bro. Rosa Parks went through some legit shit, and there was plenty of evidence to fucking, but, you know, I mean, obviously way different times, and you know, like, this dude's bringing a fucking lawsuit, right? So you got to fucking prove it, dude. And in my evaluation to this point, you got a long way to go. You got to provide some kind of hardcore evidence. Like I said, bro, bank transactions, if you're talking about the, or something, or, you know, video or audio recording when you're talking about the 100K stuff, or, you know, like, when it comes to the Broncos, if they produce some kind of documentation, you got to have some kind of legit fucking proof of your own, bro, because, I mean, so far, this dude hasn't provided anything. We'll see how it plays out. Either way, it's a giant mess for the Dolphins, Brian Flores for the NFL. I mean, but of course, you know, just like the Dolphins, to be at the center of more bullshit and more drama one way or the other. And look, you know, there is some chance that there could be some investigations levied on the Dolphins and Stephen Ross for tampering. Again, though, I mean, right now the evidence is super, what's the word? I'm blanking right now, but it's not concrete at all, bro. So we'll see how it plays out. It's a giant thing. We will move on. Anyway, like I said, I mean, that ended up being a super long video, long reaction. Hey man, sorry about that, but I had to say my piece. I got to get my feelings out there, and I want change too, bro. I don't know how you're going to get, you know, these rich white people to all of a sudden be different. You know, I do believe that racism is baked in, but, you know, there are 7 billionaires in the country out of 724. What are you going to actually do And again, if you want to, like, look at Bennett Amalu, the doctor who brought the whole concussion research to the NFL. The NFL tried to blackball the shit out of him, discredit him, etc. But he fought, and he came with legit hardcore evidence that couldn't be ignored, that just couldn't be ignored. And so you got to do that, bro. If you're going to attack, like, I'm all about it. I'm all about attacking big corporations that do fucked up shit. But you gotta come correct, bro, because otherwise they are just going to squash you. And it's not even going to be fucking, it won't even be a challenge for them because they have so much money and so many resources. In fact, I'll even go as far as to say is that even if the Broncos don't have evidence, right, as long as Brian Flores doesn't have like an audio recording or a video recording of the interview, they could just fabricate a whole bunch of paperwork and get away with it. That is possible. But if they provide any kind of documentation, he's got to come with something even better because otherwise they're just going to fucking shit all over him, dude. So, hey, man, I guess, though, if he knows the risks that he's taking, more power to you, I suppose. But you got to come with a lot more. And look, I'd be happy to be on his side in this because, again, I do think that it exists. But you got to come with the evidence, bro. So anyway, before I get out of here, make sure you check out the Rave On Sports App, the new fan-driven sports app for all of your sports, whether it be basketball, baseball, football, college, whatever you like. They got it, and they are looking to enhance your game day experience with live play-by-play coverage, live chats with other fans and content creators like myself, while also providing you with an arena to dispute all of the terrible officiating. So make sure you check that out. Look for the links in the description box. And with that, I'm going to get out of here. I hope you guys appreciate my perspective. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comments section. Of course, as always, follow me on Twitter at DillonTartaro, as well as on Instagram at Dolphins_with_Dillon. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.
7 seconds left. Tannehill will throw it. And this will end it after the shutout. Taken place here in South Florida. The Dolphins have done it. They keep their season alive. 69 yards. Wow. Pure joy. Miami wins it.